welcome to the first episode of Queer Peer Reviews. My name is Jamie, I'm your host, and today with me is my co-host Bruce.
Hello! Here at Queer Peer Reviews, we'll be reviewing all your sorts of your favorite types of media involving comics, TV shows, movies, etc. that cover queer themes, characters, and stories. Now, before we begin the show, we do have to address certain things that happened on June 24th, which was the overturn of Roe versus Wade, in which abortion is no longer federally protected across the United States. And what happened after that was that most of trigger states started banning abortion immediately, leaving many women, trans men, and non-binary people unable to be accessed to any abortion or anything that help them medically.
Yeah, while there are still a lot of states that will be protecting legal abortions, we will be including a link in the description of abortion clinics that you can donate funds to just to help. Now today we'll be reviewing a game called Tell Me Why, which is a PC and Xbox exclusive, which was released in 2020 by the production studio Don't Nod. Tell Me Why tells the story of a trans man named Tyler and his twin sister Alyson, who've been reunited for the first time in 10 years. So I think that Tell Me Why is one of the first games that actually features a trans man as the main character. I know there have been trans characters in other video games, but I think this is the first one where you're actually taking the reins as a trans man in his journey throughout the game.
Yeah, when you told me about the game and told me about the premise of it, I was like, oh, interesting, because like you just said, we never had a main character who was a trans character, and especially because it was also free, it was fun.
Yeah, during the month of June, Tell Me Why was actually free to play on PC, I believe. I don't know if it was on Xbox.
Unfortunately, by the time you watch this episode, it will not be free. So
you gotta give up the bucks.
Give the bucks for that.
I don't think it's too expensive either. I believe it's like
that's $20.
$20 or less.
But yeah, no, the story was amazing. I was hesitant to touch it. It was not because of the story, it's because I've had a history with Don't Nod, with Life is Strange, where after I played that full game, I was in post-depression for 2 days straight. So I was scared to touch any other game from them after that, because that ruined me emotionally.
Yeah.
But luckily, this game, it was still emotional, but I didn't get messed up at the end.
So one thing I really like about Tell Me Why is that all the characters who haven't seen Tyler since pre-transition are very quick to accept and adjust.
Well, I think because of that, it's also because of they have this tribe thing going on. They're in a tribe, so they have, I guess, more accepting form. Like when it comes to family, so they're more accepting. They're like, it's like, oh, you're part of my tribe, your family. So all that. It's just something, I guess, new to them. They didn't get to experience. Some reactions were like a little off, but it was a little realistic, especially Sam, who was more of an old traditional type man. Yeah,
he's one of the characters I actually thought would have been a little more homophobic and been like, what do you mean?
But he tried.
Yeah,
he tried.
He did try.
He did try. I mean, he's a fisherman, weird on himself, but on the lake, he's just a simple man who doesn't really know too much about the outside world.
Yeah, like one of the first characters you actually meet, I believe he's a fisherman on the boat who takes you to the town that they live in. When you talk to him, you introduce yourself like, oh, I thought the Ronan twins were two sisters. I didn't know they had a brother. And then they go, nope, it's me and my sister Alyson. And he kind of just goes, oh.
Oh, the boat, right?
Okay, yeah, the boat guy. So the game starts off with episode 1, where Tyler and Alyson are meeting up for the first time, and they're going to visit their childhood home, in which a very traumatic event happened when they were just kids, in which Tyler was arrested for killing his mom in the situation, which was a self-defense situation that the twins are claiming, saying that their mother, Mary Ann, was chasing Tyler, saying, I'm gonna kill you, and they start the series off with believing that it is because Mary Ann did not support Tyler's transition and was very angry about that, which we later learn is not the case.
But yeah, at first it was believed it was because of a haircut that happened.
Yeah, so Tyler cuts his hair when he was a kid and brings it to Mary Ann's attention, saying, hey, look, I got a haircut. And then that's when he sees Mary Ann, his mother, with a gun, who starts chasing him. He calls for the help of his sister Alyson, who then we learn at the end of episode 1 is the actual person who kills Mary Ann and not Tyler.
Yeah, that was a big twist there at the end. I was shocked and awed. I was like, I just stared at my PC like, oh. It's like it goes this rabbit hole goes deeper now. That the fact that they both lied, but Tyler took the blame for it. Like he willingly took the blame, but he's also at the same time angry at the repercussions for having to take that blame.
Yeah. So when Tyler and Allison arrive in town, Allison begins to bring Tyler around to meet everybody for the first time since his transition, and one of them is the shop owner, Tom Becci, and his wife Tessa, who were very close to Tyler and Allison's family.
Especially since Tessa, I believe, employed the mother at the time during that time, and she was sort of working there also to get food because I guess there was also hints at the fact that they were struggling within the mother, so that also contributed to the mother's sort of mental collapse going on around there.
And then throughout episode 1, you learn that Marianne in her bedroom had a conversion therapy pamphlet as well as a book on how to raise your trans child, which was very confusing to Tyler. And then when they do arrive to the shop, I believe that's when they learn that Tessa is the one who gave their mother the conversion therapy pamphlet. And things start to get a little confusing for the twins because their truth that they believed is that Marianne, their mother, was angry about Tyler's transition, when in reality she was actually very supportive.
Yeah, at that point I was just like, wait, so now wait. So I was like, this changes some stuff. Like, so why did the mother chase the gun? She had the book, and Tessa was the one that gave the pamphlet. It was that I became like, try to be detective mode here, but even then I was just like...
Yeah, there's a lot of twists and turns, and one of the twists that you learn fairly early in the game is that the twins actually have a power, which is very common in the Don't Nod series. Their characters have some sort of power, like in Life is Strange. The twins have telepathy, and they can
limited
see... Limited telepathy.
Only to each other, like a walkie-talkie, but in their head.
And they could actually see previous memories from their childhood. And then we move on to episode 2, where it's the twins basically getting ready to sell their childhood home, which was full of bad memories to them, just so they could move on with their lives. And you investigate the police station, which ultimately you break into the archives and you start learning things about Marianne, which they did not know about them before.
A lot of crime gets committed here a bit. For me, it was like a little stressful because I was like wondering, like, when's the game gonna cut me off? So
I was so scared that they were just gonna walk in.
And then what happened was, there's also Tessa reported apparently the mother of 2 Child Protective Services, and that they were gonna take away the kids. What they hear, one thing is from before is like, oh, Tessa's this nice lady that tried to help her mom, from seeing like she tried to break the family apart because of the situation. So it becomes like, now they're seeing that their own people they known for years, a whole different perspective.
So after the police archives, you then go back home, in which you learn that the barn is on fire. So when Tyler goes to try to extinguish the fire, a man comes running out of the barn.
And he looks like what the kids saw before in their childhood, the Mad Hunter.
The Mad Hunter, which is a character from Marianne's stories, which was a villain to them in their childhood.
So that even brought up more questions, like, this guy's still around. And then what we find in that barn, what we was trying to burn, apparently under the wood boards of the barn, was papers, letters, insinuating that Marianne was, I guess, a mistress to this other guy who was like married, and I guess how I was trying to get together is like, oh, maybe he has like a family too.
That man also happened to be at the dock a few days prior to Marianne's death.
And it was a tough situation too at the same time, because they don't want to go near that docks.
And then we move on to episode 3. Basically, the big question is, who is our father? Who was that man?
And chances are, the person who tried to burn down the barn was probably the father.
We start to learn Allison has fabricated memories. You just learn that a lot of the things she has been seeing are not actually the case, and they're pieces of other memories just being put together, which she starts to believe, was mom really angry the night that Allison killed her because she was out to kill Tyler. So Allison goes to see Sam to confront him to see, hey, I think I know that you're my dad, which Sam then admits, I'm not, but I did love your mother very much, and so did Sam's wife. He then brings out a memory box for Allison to show some pictures that she had never seen before of her mother. And that's when you see this picture of Sam building their barn for them, the same barn that man that night set on fire. You see that there is a loft that Sam built for her, which has a secret lever. So Allison then takes that information to find Tyler and see what is up in that attic. So before we touch up on the rest of episode 3, there is a slight romance option you get to experience and choose whether or not you want to partake in that, which is Michael, Allison's best friend.
I think I had a much better experience I like interacting with that. I was just looking at that screen like with determinations. Like I got the vibes. I was like, it was like just them in the back of the store discussing. I was getting super vibes, and I was like, there's a flirt option here, and then there was, and I went for it. And so the main part of the story too is that there's moments where there's decisions that either make or break a bond between the twins. That apparently this one like romanticizing with Michael breaks the bond apparently, but as long as you've kept the bond strong for everything else, this won't matter too much.
Yeah, I think that was very important for me, keeping the bond of the twins. But we're Queer Peer Reviews. There is an option for a gay romance. Of course, we're going to pick the gay romance.
I think Tyler's been through enough trauma. He needs some loving. So after that, Tyler and Allison meet up back at the house, where Allison shows Tyler a photo of the barn being built by Sam, where it shows the hidden loft above the barn. They go to investigate the barn. It was the most creative but at the same time, it was like, yo, Marianne is Riddler over here.
I was very confused with some of those puzzles.
But what we learned is that it was actually just a story about Marianne.
And I believe that is when she becomes impregnated with this other man's child, which throughout the story, the puzzles in the attic, you learn that she had a miscarriage or the baby died, I forget.
It was I believe it was, no, the baby died.
The baby died.
Yeah, and that was like that was a very tragic part, and that's when they learned that they technically had, a sibling that existed.
Leo.
Yeah, and that was the code for the final puzzle.
That's kind of showing how important Tyler and Allison were to Marianne, because they were basically like her second chance of having a family.
So after they went through the whole puzzle and learned about Marianne's entire story of how she got to where she were. They went back to the dock, and it was revealed that it was actually Tom, the shop clerk, that was the father. I was also just genuinely shocked, because that is Tom. The man has a goatee like that. And I wasn't sure what Marianne saw. That's why I put my notes. Marianne was for the streets.
Yeah, and
don't put that in there.
No, Marianne was for the streets.
Marianne was for the streets. So from there, that's why we believed this Tom Vecchi was running for mayor. He was probably destroying evidence. And then from what we learned too is that now we know why Tessa was so mad, was like doing all this like child protective services and all that on the mother. It was because Tessa actually knew this affair happened, but she wasn't brave enough to confront Tom. But she just took out her anger on Marianne, the mistress. And yeah, so they called Tom. They have sort of a meetup. It was a dramatic scene, and in my mind, I'm like, please no one pull a gun out, because I was worried.
I was very scared about that.
Scenes like that, like Don't does stuff like this, where Tom pulls out a gun. I was like, oh no, don't do that.
Yes. So when Tom meets up with the twins, he reveals the truth, which was he was there that night, the night that Marianne was killed by Allison.
Which Tyler thought was the Mad Hunter was actually also him.
Yes.
Just watching.
In which he reveals that Marianne was loading a gun way before Tyler cut his hair and encountered his mom. Marianne was, in fact, planning to kill herself and not Tyler. Tyler just happened to show up, and Marianne wanted to run after him and be like, it's okay, it's fine. And that's when you learn Tom's point of view, which was Marianne was not angry that night.
It sort of became like a clashing thought, like the twins were not sure what to believe anymore.
Which brings you down to your final decision of the game, which is, do you want to believe Tom Vecchi's truth, which was Marianne was a good person, she had no intentions of killing Tyler that night, or do you believe Allison's truth, which is more justifying of the murder of Marianne, which was she was planning to kill Tyler that night?
I had to believe from all the evidence that I come to the conclusion that Tom's memory was probably the right one. From what I wrote in my notes, that huge loft about her whole story was basically the most elaborate suicide note.
So I wound up choosing Tom Vecchi's truth because I believe that was more justifying to Marianne, the character we got to learn more about, and realizing she was actually a very loving mother, opposed to what they originally thought. So
yeah, and it was a tough decision to make. I even had to pause for 5 minutes.
Oh yeah,
today think about it. And the most important aspect about this is that you would think Tyler's the one that has to accept it, but Tyler's already been through basically what when he went through, what's that place? Where did he go to?
Oh,
He didn't go to
something weed.
Oh,
Weed.
fireweed. What was it about? It was sort of something he allowed himself to grow more, but he kind of already went through therapy. He kind of already understood it was Alyson who still had to accept. That's why at the ending it is all pointed to Alyson to what she wanted to accept.
Yeah.
And that's when we kind of both chose Tom, because it made more sense considering what all the evidence we had to.
As much as we hated Tom.
As much as I hated that guy.
That's what made the decision very hard. Like, you wind up hating Tom with all your guts, and you have to choose his truth to get what I would say is the better ending.
And I did not get any sad. I was actually happy.
I had anxiety, but I was not
stressed.
sad.
I was worried how I was going to be afterwards, but God did not turn out that way.
So here on Queer Peer Reviews, we're going to be rating all the pieces of media that we are going to be reviewing. They're going to be based off of 5 different categories for most things, all out of 10, so with a final score of 100.
So let us start with representation. How well did Tell Me Why portray their characters? So representation, how do we give it? I give it 9.2 because I want to be different.
You want to be better than me, that's why. So yeah, I give it a 9 because I think it's a very authentic story. I have seen a lot of negative reviews for the game saying, oh, the story's not even about Tyler being trans, which I don't think is the point of the story.
It doesn't. Yeah. The thing is, it doesn't have to be. It's just about basically a human.
Yeah, it's not about a trans journey. It is about a trans man who goes through all this, which I think is what a lot of queer people want to see in media. They don't want it to be, oh, this is about me being gay. No, it's just about a gay person going through all this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you saw, if it was a straight person, you wouldn't say, oh, why is it not talking about his straightness?
Yeah.
No, we don't have. It's about a human being discovering his traumatic event had so many twists and turns. It becomes, if anything, the story is basically about discovering the truth. It's like a detective story in some way. So that's what it was. Basically.
So the next category is a bit of a fun one that I came up with. It's called the closet scale. If we were still in the closet, would this be a story with the queer theme that would help us feel more comfortable coming out of the closet?
Oh, wow, we both thought the same thing.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Oh, wait,
the tables have turned.
Oh, 1, 2, 3.
And 8.
I give it an 8.5. You can't really see that dot. It is not an 85.
Somebody copied me. But
why do you give it an 8 and not like a 9 or a 10?
Well, like at the beginning, it was a little traumatic, you know, that it was believed at first that the mother was going to kill Tyler.
Yeah.
So that would definitely be like, oh my God, what if that happens to me?
It's like, how will my family react if I were to come out to them type of thing. But I think what gives it the boost of the 8.5 and the 8
is
rating.
the people of the town.
The people of the town, yeah. Like we said in the beginning, nobody reacted with any sort of malice or like hatred towards Tyler transitioning at all.
Even Sam was like, honestly, the best reaction you could ever, like the worst, I guess Sam's was the best, but kind of worst reaction, but that was like the best. So, next up, originality. We give it very, very high numbers.
10. Perfect score.
I gave it a perfect score.
Mine was almost a perfect score because I believe there is nothing perfect right now, but this is also the first episode. I'm sure there will be a 10 for me down the road.
Also, because if I give it a 9.92, that would just look weird. So I
stop copying me.
So I just sort of gave it a 10. The story was like very new to me. I did, especially because of the twists and turns. Definitely like, okay, wow, this is. At first you think about it as like, oh, it's just like a murder investigation, but it becomes a whole other different thing. Yeah. And I genuinely like the story.
But yeah, 9.9 and a 10. Good job, Don't Nod. All right.
Well, damn, I feel lesser.
We don't have to agree on everything.
Okay, you started.
There's going to be ones where we completely have different scales. All right. So the next category is writing, how the story was written, whether that's like dialogue, just the plot in general. But I give it a 9.5.
I give it an 8.9.
Yeah, so why do you give it an 8.9?
Because I talked about before about Don't Nod's infamous writing. I feel like I was talking more a little bit on the dialogue side, but we're talking about story writing wise. I loved it. The dialogue, it was still great. There was still a bit of like, okay, that's dope, not dialogue right there. That's dope, not dialogue.
It's very like 2010s, the ones I know.
Story-wise was great. Dialogue was good. It was good. They had some weird stuff, but other than that was pretty much it.
I give it a 9.5 from like filmmaking stance because I really love all the twists and turns. I feel like it was definitely something that on a much larger scale had to be planned out in terms of like Marianne, her past, and then how that past conflicted with like Tyler and Alyson's storyline, and I just really love how they executed that. Okay, and last but not least, our overall
I know exactly what I'm giving it.
I think it's this one.
Overall feeling.
Overall.
Huh? Oh.
Yes, you.
No, that's you. That's you. That's his Bruce.
Oh, okay, yeah. And last but not least, our overall feeling of the story. Wahoo. What?
Pretty almost perfect for me.
10. Despite my previous rating.
But yeah, no, I mean, that just means you enjoyed the game.
I did. I really did. I did
game.
Enjoy it.
I wish it was, I think I would give it a 10 if it was just a little bit longer. It was only 3 episodes, but nonetheless, I really enjoyed the game. I feel like there should be more games like this.
I know, yeah, they should. I'll be honest with you, when I downloaded the game, I was so hesitant to start because of like my past experience with Life is Strange. I was like, ooh, but I got into it so quick. I was like, I really like. When I was out, I was like, I can't wait to go back home and just finish these episodes.
Yeah, I know you finished it a lot quicker than I did. I
have more time.
Yeah, I was a little slow at it, but you kept like reminding me, did you get to this part yet?
Oh my God, this
is so good.
It. Now we got to.
Yeah, it was one of those stories where if you're playing with somebody who's also playing it, you really just want to talk and discuss like what happened, like with all the choices and everything. But yeah, 9.8 and a 10. So we're gonna get our total from our straight ally crew member AJ.
It's me, AJ. All right, so the total is 92.8.
92.8 out of 100. Out of 100. Yay! I know it is out of 100.
That was 92.8 out of 100. Nice.
So that is a passing score. That is, what is that, an A or A plus in school grading?
It's a gay plus.
That is a gay plus.
Should we keep that?
No, we're gonna keep that.
We keep that one? Okay, cool. We're keeping that.
But yeah, so Tell Me Why by Don't Nod, you receive a 92.8 out of 100 from Queer Peer Review's first ever episode. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in for our first episode of Queer Peer Reviews. This really means so much to us. This is our first episode. There's gonna be more to come, we're excited.
It's a little rough. It's a little start amateurish, but we're gonna be better.
This is both out of our comfort zone, so I believe this is a way for us to get.
So if you comment saying, oh, you missed some part of this plot line, we apologize because we have to make these videos a little time limited, and yeah, I might have forgotten some plot points, but
it's okay. We can't remember everything, but nonetheless, we enjoyed the game so much. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. In the description below, we will include links to the Trevor Project as well as the abortion clinics that we mentioned earlier. See you next time.